Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian here with my boy B, and today we're gonna talk about marriage a little bit. More specifically, though, we're gonna have some conversation around just premarital things in general. I'll just say just premarital. I don't even know, a box of premarital things. I don't know. We're going to just discuss some things that are a bit controversial in the world of things that should be done prior to marriage, and some things that aren't. Just kind of give some of our opinions and talk through it. For context, I am not married. B is happily married, so I always love it when we can have dueling opinions. I would say a lot of times we agree on most things, at least that we talk about. So it's good within the topic that we're rebelling to have like a different, I don't know, just not stances really, but like realities. Actually, I think it's good. So yeah, so I mean, for me, right? No marriage. I haven't been married previously. Not currently married, but this is all my opinions will be coming from the vantage point of somebody that is working towards that. Like I do wish we married one day, but just ain't there yet. So for whatever that's worth, B might have a little more in the field experience on this one. But we're talking about pre-marriage, so I mean, I guess I fit that, perfectly.
Now, I think this is good because even though I'm married, you're a certified lover boy.
That's
And I'm
facts.
not.
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
very, very, very not romantic.
No,
So
that's a yeah.
I
That's a
think
great point.
it'll be different situation, different thoughts, different
Yes,
opinions.
yes, that's good. So with that, that's actually a perfect kickoff. B, what do I don't know? I guess like if you rewind back a couple years, or you're with your wife now, and you're like, at this point, she's, let's say, your girlfriend, and you're looking down range. Like I know you're a planner. Since I've known you, I feel like you've been pretty good at like kind of thinking at least one or two, if not more steps ahead. You're like, all right, like I think she could be the one. I'm gonna start like strategically maneuvering maybe, or I'm gonna see if we got these things in line. Give me maybe like two big things that, if you can go back when you were in that headspace, that maybe that were important to you, or you were like just thinking about often.
Oh man. Oh, dude. Right before I started dating my wife,
Yeah.
girlfriend at the time, or not even girlfriend at the time, but I just came from ending a 6-year relationship.
I recall.
And so my wife, she checked the boxes that I was looking for to say that I'm trying to remember what I was exactly looking for, but it was I think the big thing for me, like you cannot get away from look and personality, right? Like they
Yes,
just I
yes,
think
of course.
that's universally, maybe not universally, maybe 99% of people they care about that. So I'm not going to cover that. But I did look for someone that I can share a goal with, like a life goal with, if that makes sense. And I mean, I'm still am very into investments and personal
Yeah,
finance, just money stuff in general. So someone that can like share the view and kind of strive towards something
yeah.
together. I was really looking for that. And also, I said this in previous episodes, but like one of the things that like really attracts me to people, not in like a sexual way, but like
Yeah.
even just gravitate towards them,
Yes.
is when someone's like really, really good at their job or whatever it doesn't, yeah,
Whatever they're into.
yeah, whatever they're into, hobbies or like their profession. Like if they're really competent at what they do, like I'm just drawn to that. So I guess, yeah, that's what I was kind of like looking for, that I thought that was kind of lacking in my previous previous relationship.
Mm,
So yeah, I think besides obviously the looks and personality and
okay.
just vibes,
Okay. Good vibes. Good vibes. Yeah.
good
I always
vibes.
need the vibes. Okay. On that note, and we'll probably circle back to this later. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna pocket. I had a comment. I'm gonna pocket it for later. Hope I don't forget. But that's good to note. So you had some, which I think everybody does, criteria, or I'm not gonna say boxes to try to check, which is how it's most often referred to. But some things in your head that you're looking for pre-marriage that, like, hey, okay, I need these things to align so I could take the first step, right? It's funny you mentioned the looks and personality, which I would say is pretty unanimous. Like most people like that, like that's gonna be a thing for you, like a point of drawing you towards someone, the looks and the personality. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Do you watch Love Is Blind?
Yes, I watched.
Oh,
I think I watched like the first
was
4 seasons, maybe
nah,
first 5 seasons.
okay. Was not expecting that. All right. So I just think that's funny because the whole premise of the show, is like, one, to end in marriage, but two, to marry someone sight unseen, as they say, for all the non-Love Is Blind watchers. So you can kind of, navigate around that stereotypical, like, okay, how does this person look? So I don't know. I think that's interesting. Actually, literally, uh, a little bit before we recorded this episode, I was watching the current season with my girlfriend. Um, on FaceTime, we were watching Love Is Blind, so I think that's super appropriate. Do you have any, just while we're on this topic, do you have any strong feelings about that show or the concept of, marrying somebody? I mean, that this is extreme because their timeline is literally a matter of weeks, but just the
Yeah.
concept in general.
No, I mean I do think it's a fairy tale concept
Yeah.
for a show, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be entertaining. It's not necessarily
Right.
for them. It's for Netflix to entertain the viewers. So that's my going into argument.
Yeah.
But I don't. So I'm on the camp of like, if two people are 100% committed
Hmm.
to working this marriage out,
Hmm.
I think even in a Love Is Blind scenario, I think it could work. But you need that total commitment, something inside you that says, "Hey, I made a decision
Hmm.
for life, and I'm gonna stick to it
Okay.
and work on it."
Okay.
Where I don't think it's like that.
You
I
say on the
guess it
show?
not even in the show, but like just
Oh, in
people in
general.
general around.
Mm.
I mean, because like I mean, you look at their age, like we're around the same age,
Oh
right?
no,
Like
yeah.
it's a
Oh
millennial,
yeah. The
and
contestants are
maybe
like
like
27 to 34, which is
yeah, and
yeah.
then what's one below us? Gen
Gen Z.
Alpha?
We're
Gen Z?
millennials,
Is
Gen
that
Z, and then
is
Gen
that Gen
Alpha.
Z after? Okay, so
Yeah.
like maybe the older Gen Z people, right? Like we're all in the same age group or bracket or whatever. And then I guess like from that standpoint, I don't think marriage is looked at that way. It's like, oh, like if something happens, divorce is very common or like
Mm,
not necessarily common, but like it's common enough to be everyday life. That like you hear someone, you're friends with someone that went through a divorce, like a couple of people that went through a divorce.
yeah.
You get the idea, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not like a foreign concept.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I don't think a lot of those relationships works.
Right.
Um, and also to I guess to add on to that, I don't like it's not wrong to have a type like
Yeah.
physically
No.
attracted, like the type that you're attracted to,
Right.
right? So even if you meet all the wickets, like if you truly don't find that person attractive physically, like I know that there's not gonna be the heart in it, I guess.
Yeah, like
And I
the
don't think it's a wrong thing. Like it's kinda there's a there's a saying in Japanese. It's like regardless of if your wife is like super beautiful or super ugly, you get used to them in 3 days.
Mm.
So,
Wonder what's the
it's ba
significance of 3 days.
Yeah, or like I don't know what
But
the
yeah,
3
like a
days is,
show.
but like
Yeah.
if they're super beautiful, like you're gonna get used to their beauty, and if they're super ugly, like you're gonna just get used to their ugliness, I guess.
So is
But
that all to say? Like, look,
yeah,
basically
it's
looks
all
don't
to
matter.
say like looks don't matter as
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
I thought that was just like a funny
Yeah,
saying.
it is.
Um, but yeah,
It is.
I don't think it's I don't think it's gonna for majority, like I'm talking like 80% of the people, I don't think it's gonna work just because of those things I listed. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, sure. I'm definitely a committed viewer of the show, but yes, for its intent, which to actually get married, yes, very suspect. I think a lot of it is for viewership, but in that, I think a lot of people be like, "Oh, this show could never work," or the people that do work, it's all fake. I think there is some genuine couples that come out of there, like the process works for them. However, I would argue they're the exception, not the rule. Like they are not the norm. And not to say it can't work, but the people that do work, you know, they're one of the few.
Mm.
And with what we're about to say and like my beliefs, I think personally, I think a certain things have to occur. Not have to. I think certain things should occur before marriage that will increase your likelihood for success in marriage. That just by virtue of going on that show, um, it either can't happen due to the timeline or again, your time is extremely compressed and you just rush through certain phases that don't allow you to really get to know your partner in certain ways, which I think is going to be the heart of a lot of what we, get to talk about. So one thing you brought up while you were speaking was divorce. And in one of our previous episodes, we talked about, causes of divorce, to which I think one point I brought up was, one of the leading causes of divorce isn't what everybody thinks, i.e., like kids or finances, where it's actually expectations. More specifically, uncommunicated expectations, which I still think is like a fascinating point and a point of reflection, even for me, like in my relationship, just hearing that and being like, oh, dude, I need to make sure like I communicate, you know, super clear, like over communicate certain things just to avoid that statistic of getting divorced due to unclear expectations. Um, but I think in saying that, I think there are some things like obviously I could tell you like, hey, B, in this friendship, my expectation is this, this, this. But living those and like showing those expectations through action, I think is a whole nother level. And some of those things I think you can only like you can communicate it, but you can't adequately show or like prove or set that standard until you're around that person a certain amount of time or I wasn't even trying to go into it yet, but let's say like living with that person, like there's just certain things you can't properly set an expectation
Mhm.
unless you're in the proximity of that. But you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't know if
No,
I feel like
absolutely.
I'm talking in circles. Um, but yeah, that statistic of just unclear expectations always stood out to me. And then that got me thinking like, you can't, you can't like, let's say we don't live together and I'm like, hey, I expect you. I mean, it sounds really harsh, and I don't think anybody does this, but I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, if I had an expectation from my partner around the house, and I know I want to have this expectation going into a marriage, but if we don't live together, how am I ever going to see that? How are we going to navigate through that? How are we going to set roles and responsibilities if we're never in that space?
Yeah, it's like talking about just theories or actually just doing it in practice, and always doing something in practice is better than just theory talking.
Right?
Yeah.
I, I don't know if I'm the only one. I wouldn't want to start a marriage on a theory. I rather, I rather have some practice, have some data points, go through it, you know what I mean? Like some hard data.
Yeah, what was the narrative growing up for you, like, in terms of living with someone before marriage? Like, what is the common narrative that Americans grow up on?
So I'm glad you asked. And just based on you putting American, I'm sure that you might be getting to a point of comparing with Japanese, or if not, I'd like to hear your side. But it's funny you asked that because I was recently talking to my mom about just like random marriage stuff. I was like, yeah, like before I get married, I'm gonna have to live with my partner. That's low key and non-negotiable for me. I I will do anything I can to have some time with them, co-located under the same roof before I get married because that's important to me to see how we navigate living together. And she was like, okay. She literally said like, oh, and she's not combative at all. I think she actually agrees with me, but she said verbatim, like, oh, that's not how I was raised. And to that point, I mean, we didn't talk about it much. Like she never told me like, Julian, you shouldn't live with your partner, or no, nothing like that. But the narrative to your question was like, you don't live with your partner before. And my mom's in a bowling league. She said she was like, I don't know, had a game or whatever the other day, and she was like telling some of her teammates what I said, and they as a collective was like, oh yeah, no, we disagree with that. Hey, why did like it's not right to live with your partner before marriage. And I don't know if they gave any backup as to why, right? Why? But yeah, she literally said that's not how she was raised, and then the people she communicated that to, they disagree with that.
Huh.
Yeah.
I would
Right.
like to know the reason why, besides like premarital sex. Like obviously, if you live with someone, like that's pretty much bound to happen unless like for very strict religious reasons. So besides that, what's wrong? Like, because dating is ultimately like a practice, soft commitment run
Mm.
before you get married, right? It's like your trial period.
Yes, with a caveat, which is another point I'm going to bring up, but I'm going to let you finish your thought.
But if it's a trial period, like, why don't you
Right.
try to mimic
Yes.
that's like how it would be like being married without the paper signed?
I think you're preaching. Yes. In anything that is, like you said, I think most people agree that it's a trial period. Why would you not want to mimic, I'm stealing your words, the final result? And I'm gonna give two examples. One good, I guess one good example, one bad. So right, like we were both in the military, and in a lot of our trainings, they try to mimic what would actually happen in whatever we're training for, i.e., we've both driven naval vessels before, like if it's ship driving or whatever, right? Like they try to mimic real world conditions, real scenario. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah.
Like that's the goal.
Yeah.
Um, Now to parallel that to one of our other episodes where we talked about education and maybe some reasons we think it's lacking, I don't think in a lot of ways it mimics real life. Like they're not teaching about taxes. They're not teaching about these things you're going to have to. It's not subjective. Objectively, you're going to experience, but it's not getting taught in school. Like why would you not? It's like the old adage, you practice how you play. Why would you not practice how you play?
Mhm.
So I'm just using those two examples to kind of drive down the point that you said, but yeah, I can't think of outside of religion one reason to not do it.
Yeah. I mean, at least like I don't know. Like I was like thinking about like at least from like a Japanese culture standpoint, I don't know what's preached. Like, I mean, they're pretty traditional like, in the Japanese way. So like I would assume that it leans towards don't live together before marriage. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But then from what I know, I remember like my mom would be like, no, like don't live with your girlfriend before you get married. Like, don't do that. It's
See, I
like,
mean, yeah.
yeah.
And
She was
then
trying to frame it to like it was like illegal under the Navy, like where it's like yeah, I remember like it was like my mom, my dad, and I was in the car or something. And then we were talking about, oh, like, what are you gonna do with the current girlfriend that I had? Like, oh, I was like, she can just live with me for whatever, whatever. She's like, oh, you can't do that, blah 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 blah. It's the Navy, blah blah blah. And my dad's like, no, I mean, yes, you can.
yeah.
Like, you're an adult. Like, you can definitely live with another adult inside the home. Like,
Right.
So I don't know.
Dang, was mom trying to trick you? Was she trying to
Yeah,
like
I mean, I
what?
don't know. I don't know what she was trying to do.
That's kind of funny. Um, just give me a thought. Oh yeah. On the Japanese note, it is to my understanding, like America, if you're a full grown adult, right? Like we're around our 30s and you're living with your parents, that's like, like it's just the
Yeah.
unspoken, like kind of, But in Japan, that's not the case. That's not the narrative around that, right? Like it's common for people to live with their families once they're older until they get married and then
No, so maybe for the girl's side until they
okay.
get married, but on the guy side, if you're the firstborn male,
Okay.
you kind of stay at the house and take over the house.
Interesting.
Usually.
So what if you're the second, third, whatever, second or great or later male?
I don't know, go get a house.
So
Move out.
the eldest male can stay
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
house,
yeah.
but all the other males leave.
I mean, I don't
In
obviously
perfect
it's like
world.
a generally accepted
Right.
practice, so it's not like everybody.
Interesting.
But yeah, like
And
same thing with my family. Like my grandpa was the oldest male in his household, and he just naturally took over the house, and all his siblings left.
That's fascinating. And when you say take over the house, is it like literally like stay in that same house, or just whether if the family moves around, like he's just like running the household?
I mean, I
Kinda
guess it
both,
would be
maybe.
both, but
Yeah.
the what I'm used to is like they would just like literally become the head of the household at that house.
Huh.
Yeah, and then like at least in Japanese culture, there's a lot more like generational living,
Oh
like where
yeah.
you have the
Yes. Yeah.
great grandparents, the grandparents, the parents, and you like living in a house. Like
That'd be
I lived
insane.
like that for a while.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
At least, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Okay, so I'm trying to see how that would play in a dating world, but like you said, I
Oh,
mean,
and then
once
the
you meet a
now,
partner, because you know
yeah,
how like you meet somebody at some point, you're either going to her house or like she's coming over to your house, even if you're just
yeah,
hooking up or whatever. So if you got the whole family at the crib, it's like, are we going to your house? Or I mean, if I'm
yeah.
just kind of playing in my head, like, is that a part of the culture? Like, is that not a thing? Do you not just casually go over each other's house?
Well, remember in
Hard question.
Japan, you have a lot of like love hotels for purposes like that.
Oh, but that's money. Dang, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, but the thing about it, like you don't because of that culture doesn't exist in the United States. Like you just don't see love hotels.
So what if you're trying to bring somebody over, right? You're not trying to have sex. It's not like you're not trying to have sex, but you're too new. Like you're not trying to introduce them to your family either. It's like we just want to go somewhere and chill, but like we're not trying to go to the movies. Is
Oh,
there
go on
no?
a date.
Ain't no. I mean, I guess
Go
just.
get food, go get shopping, go to a
All
city,
right, I want to do something where I don't have to spend money. I want to sit down somewhere.
go to a cafe, get a coffee, sit down, talk for hours.
Damn. I guess I never. Yeah, I never pieced that
Go on a
together. Yeah.
drive.
Yeah. Burning gas, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's so. Yeah. I love seeing like cultural differences. That is pretty interesting. I want to circle back to what you were saying about dating, because this is actually something I was going to bring up too, and how at face value, I would say dating has you date with the intention to find. I won't even say marriage because some people don't believe in marriage. You date with the intent to find a lifelong partner. Most people,
Mm.
again, unless you're, I won't say polygamous because even they find many lifelong partners, but unless you just want to be a free spirit your whole life and like don't want to settle down, but right, you date with the intention to find a lifelong partner. I would say that's true after like a certain age or phase. Because you got to think in high school, maybe were you dating with the intention to like find your wife?
I thought I was.
That's actually a really good answer. Yeah, I feel like our scope of what we want changes. Okay, okay, that's fair. And did you start dating in high school or did you like date before that? Like,
I had
you're not nobody's
I
in
had
high
like
school.
a week, 2 week long
Yeah.
girlfriend in like middle school, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
and
that's a
then
fair question.
yeah, I had like a long term girlfriend like my freshman year of high school.
Okay. Okay. And the only reason I bring that up is because I would argue, like, I wouldn't be surprised if younger people, younger being like 20 and below, aren't necessarily dating for marriage. Like, you're young, you're just trying to kind of do stuff.
Mm.
Maybe you just date because that's all you heard. Like, that's what you think is right. Like, you find a girl you like and you just date her because you want to be around her a lot. You might not be thinking about lifelong commitment though. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I think not until you mature and experience a certain deal of life. And I think a lot of it has to do with you growing and finding your own values and finding your own beliefs and what you want. But yeah, I wouldn't say, I can't put an age on it, but at whatever that phase or that age is, after that point, then I think dating comes with the intention of the longevity piece.
Mm.
To some
I
extent.
just always thought of dating like that because you don't have to date to be with a girl.
You don't. But I feel like when you're young, it's just like that's kind of like what you do. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just think, you
okay.
know what I mean? I just think all young people, think about like you think all high schoolers, if you go to any given high school, I guarantee there's a bunch
No,
of
but
couples.
because it's not all of them, like it would be more subjective.
Sure. Oh yeah, sure. I guess I'll just say the older you get, the more you start to date with intention. Not to say you can't when you're younger, but I just
Okay,
think,
the more likely that
yeah, the more
yeah, okay,
intentional
I would
dating
agree with
becomes,
that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Also on dating, because I thought dating was one thing until like a couple years ago, where I met full grown adult and I got another perspective on dating. I was like, how am I this old and never heard that? To me, dating was always like, hey, I'm Julian, this is my girlfriend, like we're dating. But some people was like, I'm dating, but like they don't have a girlfriend. It means like I'm taking people on dates. Like I'm literally in the act of carrying out dates, which makes so much sense. Like if you're taking people on dates, you're dating. But I just
Yeah.
never thought about it
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes
Would
sense.
you? That makes sense,
Yeah,
right?
no, that makes sense.
Which is
Yeah.
mind blowing to me because I was like, I always felt like once you're not dating until you're in a relationship. But I
Yeah, but
now,
then usually people want that dating scene to be exclusive.
but then it's exclusive. Yeah, you could be dating and like dating multiple people, but that you're dating.
Yeah, but then I think it's not much of a common narrative because usually people want to date one person
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than dating a lot
Oh,
of
for
people,
sure,
different
for
people.
sure.
But yeah, what you said makes sense though.
Yeah,
Like the act of dating
it,
could be going on dates with a
dates.
lot of people,
Yes,
or
which is
not a lot of people, but different people.
yeah.
Yeah, makes
Which
sense.
was just crazy to me because again, I just never thought about it like that. Um, but to tie that all in, I think that's another interesting topic on in the premarital conversation of simply dating. Do you think, and I'll start with posing it as a question to you, do you think dating, because I know you and I know you've dated people before you got married, do you think dating, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, like equipped you for your final partner in life, i.e., your wife now? And I guess I have a follow-up question too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be naive to say that it didn't, because I mean, just being single and being to date a person, like it's just totally different.
What do you mean?
When you're single, you do whatever the hell you
Yep,
want,
yep.
literally.
Whenever you want.
Whenever you want,
Yep.
literally. Just ultimate freedom. But then when you're dating, like it's nice to have a companion with you most of the time, or
Right.
if you're living together all the
Yep.
time. But then there's also give and take within that relationship.
Right.
And the give part, like you kind of learn that, like, oh, hey, like these are the stuff that you had to
Mm.
do. Yeah. I didn't know that you have to ask someone to be their Valentine if you're dating them. Like that, I thought that was like automatically assumed. Like that was a
Yeah.
title automatically granted to that person.
Yeah.
But then I recently learned that you have to do that. Uh,
That's hilarious.
I was obviously I'm not dating now, but then that could have been something
Yeah.
that you learn if you're an early learner, fast
Mhm.
learner that you learn during dating.
Dude, that's funny.
Uh, just conversational skills. Because the way we talk to each
Mm.
other, the way you talk to your guy friends, or I'm sure it's similar to like girlfriends to girlfriends,
Mm.
like the male female conversation within that romantic scene is much different.
Ooh,
It's
I love
something that
that.
like you have to
Yeah.
get used to. Everyone's like, I'm guessing like a lot of the listeners are just dudes, right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm guessing. So I'm sure we can relate, but like if everyone's heard the saying, if a girl says okay or something, it's never okay.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So like those, just decrypting codes and whatnot. That's part of conversational skills that you kind of develop as you're dating.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
but then, that sounded kind of negative, but like there's so
No.
much stuff that you just kind of learn during dating that you're just not going to if you're by
Otherwise.
yourself.
Dude, okay, so you brought up some good points I'd love to talk more on. Dude, the Valentine's example, although it's so like minuscule and petty and hilarious, it perfectly illustrates like what we're talking about. Like you wouldn't go through that if you're not dating somebody. You never would experience that. And then like now, I mean, now like, hey, I better ask her to be my Valentine. So although petty, like that's a good example. And then on a more like legitimate note, the social piece is huge. So I was recently, I think it was actually before one of my boys' weddings, and it was a group of us. We were on a back porch. I can picture it very vividly, and it was just good feelings. Everybody was like drinking and stuff, and we were just having conversations about life partners and raising kids. And I also don't have kids, but just really deep, heartfelt conversation. And in that conversation, a couple of the guys in the group had kids at this point, and most of us didn't. But we got on the topic of, if you have a son while raising him, how do you, I don't want to say condition is a bad word, make him comfortable with socializing with women, because that will be a big part of life, whether it's women in the workforce, whether it's romantically. It's just always when you talk to women, it kind of carries differently. And I mean, as we talked about before, just having social skills, like not everybody has social skills, and that can go into building your network. Um, having social skills is just one of those intangible things that could benefit you in so many facets of life. But we literally had a focused conversation on specifically to having a son. What are things you can instill in him? And I don't even know if we got to answer, but it was just like good conversation to make him comfortable around women and talking to women. And again, I don't know what answers we got to, but again, I think it's a conversation that's not often had, and that I thought was like very wholesome. And to this topic, like, you just articulated, like, you learn things from dating, which I could argue prepared you or made you better, or yeah, and or both, for your marriage. And I think one way you could get that is dating. Now, at a real young level, when they're children, I mean, maybe just exposing them to diverse, I don't know what daycare, I don't know, just diverse environments where they're around women. I mean, I'm sure other races, all that, but in the context of this conversation, like girls or whatever, growing up with girls. And then once you get older, I would almost, want my son to like date a little bit, just so you figure out how to navigate those things. Or if you don't, hopefully he would be comfortable enough to come to me with questions, or he has people in his life, maybe male role models or whatever, that he could ask these questions. But I'm saying all this to say, I think experiencing women in various capacities prior to marriage is good. And I think that in itself could be a rebelling topic, because I don't know if you've ever heard it, but I know some dudes want the pristine, never touched, never dated version of a woman, which one is rare, and two, dude, I don't know. I just think that narrative is played out. Like, why I'd rather have someone that's experienced both in life, dating, and sexually. Just, I think it makes you more well-rounded as a person. I don't know if you have any opinions on that, but you know what I mean? Like, it's simply experience. That's the heart of what I'm trying to get at. Why would you not want to go into anything experienced? If you go to a basketball game, wouldn't you want to have practiced and played like basketball for years? Like, if you go, literally name whatever.
Yeah, it's just hard to draw that line because like obviously
Exactly. That's yes.
there's a category of
Mm-hmm.
being a virgin, not being a virgin,
Yeah.
and then not being a virgin to the extreme.
Yeah. I was
Right?
gonna
Like
say,
where
yeah.
is that line drawn?
Right.
So obviously, like, I mean, at least from for females, it's looked down upon
Mm,
if you have too much experience.
yeah.
But then like if you have no experience, that's like kind of like you said, it's like fantasized
Yeah.
to a
To a degree.
degree, yeah. And I don't I really don't see a problem with the guy and the female getting together with no experience
Okay.
and then carry on life like that.
Wait, you say like both of them had no experience going into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then soon as if like a guy has a lot of experience and a girl doesn't, it almost like I feel like it's almost unfair to the girl or the guy, depending on
Mm,
whatever situation, right? Because I don't know, is there ever doubt that they could have been compatible with like someone else, but then like this is all you know. So maybe like the person doesn't feel like they need to go out and date more. But then I mean like do most relationships end in a marriage or end in a breakup? And I feel like it's mostly breakup, right?
you said
And
relationships
then
or
yeah, relationships.
okay.
And then at that point, like I think from that process of like getting your first heartbreak, like you go through some shit.
Yeah, yes.
And yeah, it's like,
Is there not growth in that process? I would
yeah, no,
argue.
absolutely. There is. It's just weird to say like, oh, like
And
I just want a girl that's more experienced. Like just like a weird thing to think about. But then, yeah, no, I mean, I see what you're saying. I really do. I do.
yeah, I mean it may be weird to think about, but I think that's all the more reason why uh there needs to be more conversation around it.
And you can't like this is all one directional, but I think it applies both towards the male and towards the female. But
Oh
like,
yeah.
if you're like, I'm 29, you're 30,
31.
31.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Chill
Um,
out.
but it's unreasonable to think that at our age, you have never had a girlfriend or never had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right, like, if
People
you're in a
assume that.
dating scene, the
Mhm.
chances are not that anything's wrong with that, but, like, the
Right.
chances are you would've had a prior girlfriend or a prior
Right.
boyfriend. So you can't really fault them for, like, trying to be in love previously,
Oh, not at all.
right?
No. No.
Um, so yeah, like, I don't having a little bit of experience on both ends, like, I don't think that's bad at all, and then I could see where you're coming from, where it could be more beneficial than not.
Yes, which is what I'm right to the yeah. I think it's funny how you articulated the point of this category of a virgin, a non-virgin, and then would you say the extremely non-virgin? Yes, I think and it's like you don't want either extreme, but ideally you want to find a partner, or more people themselves. You want to fall somewhere in the middle, and I think what guides you to at least not going on the far extreme is just I don't know how you value yourself or like your set of or your self-respect or your own value system or whatever. I think that will dictate how you navigate, I guess, that space, like, sexually, but then also who you attract. I think it'll also kind of dictate, maybe like subconsciously, who comes into your life or who you're
Mm,
going after. A lot of times people try to align, I think, with people that are similar to themselves, and this can be in any category, whether it's hobbies or yeah, literally whatever. I think people try to find. They say opposites attract, but generally, I think you try to find like similarities in other people. And the reason I say subconsciously, because I'm just think if you're on, you name whatever, insert dating app, right? Um, and you're swiping, you're looking at profiles, which we also have an episode about in the dating
yeah,
space. We're
online
dating,
dating, yeah.
yeah, online dating versus in-person dating. But I'm just using this as an example. You're on a dating app, you're swiping, and I'm gonna use you for an example. B. Let's say you're an unmarried version of yourself, right? Previous version of yourself. You're swiping, and you come across this chick. She's like, I've lived in Japan for X amount of years. I'm really trying to build my real estate portfolio. Recently been into stocks. I love reading on my free time. Yeah, and and she's attractive. I would find it hard to believe you wouldn't be like, huh, like she seems interesting beyond the average profile, beyond the average person, simply because she has things that you've experienced that you also like, you know.
I guess those aren't the opposites. Like you can I don't honestly like sure, that's an easy conversation starter,
Yeah.
right? But then I don't think you need to align on your hobbies at all.
Oh yeah, no.
I think there's okay. So to quote Dave Ramsey, I guess in the relationship space, I just pulled it up because it's kind of made me think about it when
Yeah.
you're talking. Said he says the four major things that you need to be to agree on as a
Mhm.
couple prior to marriage
Mhm.
is money, religion, children, and in-laws.
When he
And
gets a
I
family.
agree, like majority of what he's saying.
Okay.
It's like I don't care if you play games or not play games. I don't care if you into real estate or not into real
Yeah.
estate. I don't care that you're into stocks or not into stocks. But what we should be agreeing on is how are we going to go through the strategies of personal finance? Are we going to budget? Are you going to have like this
100%.
much allowance? Like, who's controlling the finances? Like, what's the
100%.
conversation like? Or like, I guess kids in this example too, because like there'll be a big, not a red flag, but like a big headbutt situation where if one guy or girl wants like four kids and the other one's like, oh, I never want to have kids.
Yes, facts.
Like that's like a
Facts.
big incompatibility thing, right?
Yes.
I could see religion. I'm not like a very religious person, so I don't necessarily care if whatever religion they are. But then I know if you're religious, like
That's
you
a good
really
point.
want to
Right.
get that other religion.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't fault them for that at all. And then in-laws, I mean, like definitely beneficial to agree on the boundaries of in-laws and the relationship you want to have with them. I get that. But then yeah, like one thing I was talking about earlier in the episode, like the direction of our life,
Mhm.
like that's like part of the things that,
Oh
but
yeah.
then that's something that regardless of hobbies is like something that you're going to just kind of find out through the dating scene or getting to know each other phase. So in like managing money, for example, I think it would be good to have opposing viewpoints to try
Okay,
to
yeah.
come up with. Does that make sense? So, like, I
Yes.
think like on the big picture things, yes, I would like to agree. So I guess in this case, like I would like to find similarities.
Mhm.
But then on the not like the big defining things, I think it would be beneficial to have different viewpoints. If
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree with all, Dave Ramsey's 4 buckets of things that are probably like you should agree on, in his words, before marriage. Those are definitely higher level. I was really just saying from the dating app perspective, using that as an example, you'll gravitate more towards those people to even open the conversations to those deeper things
Right.
if those things align. And then just comparing that to like even experience. I think, I often say the phrase like evenly yoked. Those people will be gravitate more towards each other, or even maybe better for each other if you're evenly yoked, taking it back to the experience conversation. Like if you're a little bit more experienced in the dating phase, you might also want somebody that's a little bit more experienced. Because like you said, if you have somebody that's maybe very experienced and not at all, not saying it couldn't work, but maybe statistically speaking, it's decreases the likelihood of success. But
Okay.
yeah.
I get it.
So
Maybe I
more
jumped.
no, no,
Maybe I
no, no, but that's still a great point to bring up because again, I think all those things that you just named should be talked about prior to marriage. And you brought up two that we haven't really dove into yet, family and money, which I feel like I'll go down the family path. I think this can be looked at two ways. One is, do you like slash get along with your significant other's family? And then like their like your significant other, and how are they with their own family? You know what I mean? Like some people like don't really talk to their family, and that could be a sticking point for some people, or they're they're not really family oriented. I think all that should be talked about. But then once you integrate, it's like you meet your person's family, and it's like, dude, you don't like any of them. You butt heads with a lot of them. I think those are two instances. Again, like I think you should meet your person's family before, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna be in your life for the rest of your life. Therefore, their family's gonna be in your life for the rest of your life. And
Is that a deal breaker?
great question. And this is, I was gonna ask you a similar question. So I'm trying to answer from 2 points. So if I don't get along with their family, question one, is that a deal breaker? I'm gonna say no. So I like to think if we are really locked in and we're in alignment and me and my partner agree on those things, it's not about their family. Is that me pretty much volunteering for some hard times at some point in the future? Like something's gonna come up. Like, yeah, it is. And it's also such a vague question. Like when I say family, like is it every single one of their maybe it's just their dad and
No,
a sister, you
yeah,
know what I
maybe
mean?
like
Maybe it's
dad,
unlikely you're
mom,
not
and
gonna get along with their
siblings.
whole family. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that alone, I'm gonna say no, and that it would be a lot of consideration, but I don't think so. And similarly, the second question being, what if they didn't like their family, or didn't like get along with their family?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine.
I'm gonna say
I'm fine with
no.
that.
Yeah, I would be saying it's not a deal breaker, but there would have to be some conversation because I am a big believer that it'd have to be. I'd like to hear like what happened, and I think you only get one family, especially like when it comes to mom, dad, whatever. Like I never really understood parents who willingly neglected their kids. Like you have a son or daughter, nothing ever happened, but you just choose not to be in their life, and vice versa. Like I think you should try to establish a relationship with your family. So if they just don't really give effort, or like if they're not family oriented, then yes, it's a deal breaker. But that kind of reads a little bit different than are they in good terms with their family?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
guess like if them not being family oriented means they're not putting effort in towards family and they don't really care about family structure. That I think would be a deal breaker for me. But
Mhm.
if something legitimate happened and you just so happen to not get along with your parents or siblings because X event happened in the past or whatever, and that's where you stand right now, and you have a set of values that they went against, yeah, I could accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about
And
you? Oh no, go ahead.
at least on the first one with like whether how compatible you are with their side of the family.
Yeah.
And I would think like if you're mature enough, you would have the humility to not cause a scene or make it
Right.
notable where you're like, I hate your
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. Right.
Like if it's okay, like you don't have to like them, but then I would think like you'll be adult enough to have like a civil conversation where you're not getting altercations. And then so on paper, like it looks like, it's like okay interaction, like
Right. You can
nothing positive or negative. Um
exactly.
yeah, so that's like from that standpoint, like obviously you want to be liked, like you want to be part of
Who
their
doesn't?
family,
Yeah. Who doesn't?
but then I mean like if you have that one brother that hates your guts and you just don't like him, I just don't think that's a deal breaker for what you and your partner have in the
Okay.
future.
Yeah. Okay. I think so. I think we agree on that one. Yeah. Now to the money piece.
I don't think it's talked about enough
Agree.
because, like, you talked about the, number one cause of marriage is the
Mhm.
unexpected, um, or is it the
Yeah.
lack of communications of your expectations and their expectations, vice versa. And I like that. But traditionally speaking,
Mhm.
what people have just the little phrase, right? It's like money is usually like the number one
Mhm.
cause of divorces in general. So I'm sure like whether that's true or not, or what you said is true or not, but because it's a saying, it has some validity to that statement. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. If it's totally not true and not relatable, the statement wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So
Real quick, before you continue, they both can be true because you can have uncommunicated expectations regarding
within
money.
the money space. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
continue.
But like, so we know this, right? Like, we generally know like money's could be part of the big picture, but then seeing how many couples struggle with finances in general, or even worse, together,
Yeah.
like you would, you sh- it should be on the conscious mind that you need to go through, financial, I don't know, compatibility, just talking about like finance, like personal finance ideologies, um, to make sure that it aligns, or be in a position where like one's a saver and one's a spender. Like, most likely the person that's the saver is probably better for the family, better, I guess you can say, air quotes, correct in the situation, that the other person is able to adapt and become better.
Yeah.
But my assumption is like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's insecurity, if it's, I don't know what it is, but they just don't talk about it enough. And at least from my point of view, right? Like, I always enjoy talking about money. I like the investments. I like the personal finance talk. Like, my wife and we were, I knew how much money she had in her account, her investment account, all of that stuff before we
Yes.
even dated.
Mm.
Because I was like, hey, like, this is like one of the things that I like. Like, I can try to at least, give my advice on it if you're receptive to it. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, she was definitely wanting to learn more. And that's how, we started talking
Yeah.
more and more. But yeah, I think it's just so important. And we know that it's important, but then just doesn't get practiced.
Yes. And kind of like going back to the not teaching taxes in school, but you're gonna have to deal with taxes as an adult. Like you're gonna deal with finances as a couple. So why would you not only talk about it, but like, yeah, dive into it. It's interesting hearing what you just said about you and your wife, how you knew how much you had in your account. Because I don't know any statistics, don't have any proof, but I almost guarantee you most people don't know how much the other person has in their account before they're even dating. Like that's impressive. That's not impressive. And to add on to something you said, if you're in alignment on finances or even like financial mindset, because that's a conversation I had with my current girlfriend. I literally asked like what are your thoughts surrounding money? I didn't ask if you like to save. I tried to make it more of a like, what's your money mindset, which we used to talk about a lot. To just see where we are there. But even if you're not in alignment there, I think as long as both are willing to have continual conversations about it, or even they're not so rigid in their current thought, and it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
we're both not on the same page here, but we're both amenable or willing to shift our positions or at least like learn. I think speaking, financially, I think that could work. But again, you never know if you don't have those in-depth conversations on that
Yeah, you got to just break the ice and talk about it, right?
topic. Yeah. On a more extreme, what are opposite end of the spectrum? Do you think people should combine finances in any way before marriage?
Oh man.
Split a cell phone
Combined
bill.
finances, like are you talking about like the same bank accounts or just combining
Just like start paying,
expenses?
yeah, expenses like share cell phone plan,
Yeah, I
Netflix
wouldn't.
account.
I'm against. Yeah, like if someone's living, if you're dating and living together, like I don't mind splitting. I don't think it's a bad thing to split rent,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Okay.
then you
Yeah.
can
I mean that makes sense.
that couple can work out whether it's 50-50 or depending on how much you make
Yeah.
or whatever the agreement is. But yeah, but I don't think it's a bad thing to split payments because usually two people can live. It's like if one person's spending, I don't know, $5,000 a month, let's just say,
Mhm.
like if you live with two people, you're probably not spending 10,000. You're probably only spending like 7,000.
Right.
So it's like on a average basis, like you're saving money
Exactly.
on food, on rent, on gas, maybe.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, but
Okay.
then I mean, I want to get your opinion on like sharing bank accounts, combining finances, like literally to full finances after you get married. Like, what do you?
I
Think about that.
recently had this conversation with my current girlfriend. Again, this is not speaking from experience. I'm a believer in it though. So you said combining, and then you said fully combining. I think.
I'm talking. I mean, you would have your own retirement accounts, right?
Okay.
Because like you can each have your account,
Yeah, I think I know you're getting that.
but like checkings and savings, you have one account. Like taxable investment accounts. I mean,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I'm
okay.
saying. You'd have to split.
Let's just keep it at savings and checkings because
Yeah.
other
Okay.
stuff like
Okay.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I would be okay with that. I'll be okay with that.
Do
And
you
what?
think it should happen or not happen or?
How about this? I think there should at least be one joint account. I think to keep everything separate, um, counterproductive isn't the word. I don't know what the best word is, but I think to some degree there needs to be some element of combination just so you can, I mean, have a shared space basically in the financial
Mhm.
world. Like you both know where money's going in, coming out of. I think so you can keep track because ideally, right, you're keeping track of your money jointly. Like I'm sure there's going to be a lead between the two. Whoever is more financial savvy is going to maybe do more of the calculations, maybe be the final say on some of the decisions. But like if I'm the person that's not that person, I still need to know like where my money is, like where our money is. So
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
everything's separate, you don't know where the other person's money is and going. Not necessarily you have to track every dollar, but it's you just lack the situational, too much situational awareness. But let's say you have a joint savings and checkings, but maybe one person has their own, person has their own checkings for their everyday purchases, um, you know, the nonchalant stuff. But most of the big, repetitive, maybe automated payments and stuff come out of this joint account that you can
Mhm.
both see. So I think something needs to be joint. Again, there's so many variations of this. I'm not a believer in everything is separate, but I also don't know if I'm a believer in everything's together because like we were going down that road like that gets we could have a long conversation on there's assets and there's um retirement account like you said it's probably just too much to talk about, but I think there needs to be some element of things being combined,
Okay.
which again I just talking to so I only have a couple data points on this, just talking to the friends that I'm close enough to that will like share kind of their strategies with their spouses, and most of them have either something combined or most of it combined.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have a different vantage point. What are your not saying divulge necessarily what y'all do, but what are your thoughts on that?
I'll let you know. I mean, we have nothing combined.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. But we're transparent enough
Okay, yeah.
where I
I
can log into her like bank app
sure.
and I
Okay.
know the streams of her income. So I
Yes,
can
yes, yes,
track
yes.
like
Okay.
what she's bringing in and what she's spending. And then also like we do our budget and net worth calculation every single month. So like I'm gonna see a trend if something seems off. And I mean
Yes.
nothing has seemed off. And then vice versa, like but it's at least for me, like I might have a issue, but like I check my bank like 10 times a day. I don't know what it is. Think it might be a mental
Oh, you're
issue,
just a
to be
money guy.
honest.
Yeah, it's just like it.
I don't know
Yeah.
how. I mean, why would the money be gone?
Yeah,
I don't know why. It wouldn't, right? Like that makes no sense.
that's
If
true.
I just check it, like I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I'm saying if I had one account, like I would just be, it would
Hmm.
just consume too much of my mind. And and then honestly, like if I'm like running some kind of calculations, and I'll just text her like, or just call her like, hey, how much is in your checking? How much is your savings? Real quick. She'll tell me. I'm like, all right, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I'll just continue on with my
yeah,
calculations.
yeah.
So, but then from a ideology standpoint, I do agree. Like they should have, it should just be one account. Like there's nothing to hide. Like you are just one.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that's like the intent behind it, not necessarily to have a joint account, but then like just a financial transparency because what you make, what they make, doesn't matter. It's what you guys make together
Hmm.
as a
Hmm.
family and
Hmm.
as a couple, you know.
As a unit. Yeah. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And this speaks to the importance of what you said at the very beginning, just like different situations, the diversity of thought, whatever. Because I stand by what I said, but you highlighted something that can exist outside of what I guess I didn't take into consideration. Like, you can have everything separate and still be very much involved in the other person's stuff. Like, you ever log in and you sit down and track. So that kind of speaks to the spirit of what I was saying. Not just, I'm thinking, everything's separate and you just lose all awareness. But there's other ways to kind of bridge the gap while things, and because, and this is what I was getting at, there's so many ways to, like, I guess, skin the cat, as they say. There could be benefits from keeping things separate. If you have, like, certain businesses where it benefits for not having both names on the business, or so, I don't know. There could be maybe a tax advantage or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing out random examples for not being joint. So yeah, once you dive into it, I'm sure there's stronger reasons,
Mhm.
or more avenues you could take for just having everything joint. Yeah. Um. Okay. Yeah, that was good. Do you have any other thoughts on that topic?
Oh, go. I mean, I'm sure if money comes up, like I love talking about money,
Yeah.
as you heard,
Right.
so
Right.
I'll
Clearly.
bring it up.
I think another interesting one that it's interesting for a couple reasons that isn't really talked about, because unlike living together and maybe premarital sex and your dating life, which you have direct control over, um, I want to talk about navigating just challenges
Mhm,
or hardships prior to marriage. Um, Ideally, I think you, as a couple, as a unit, whatever, you would experience something like pretty difficult with each other before marriage, because you learn a whole nother element, a whole nother aspect of that person before you dedicate your life to them, right? I would want to, and this is why, again, my personal philosophy is I want to date somebody for a pretty good amount of time before I get married, even if I know it's the person I want to marry, just because I want to maximize what I can experience with them.
what's that?
Uh,
Give me time frame.
Bro, I can't put a time on it, 'cause I'm gonna end up saying something, and that's probably not even what I'm gonna end up be doing. So in a perfect world, I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna say 3 years, and
Okay.
I actually can put some backing behind this. There's two reasons why I'll say 3 years. One is because, as we talked about before, I'm pretty sure this came up in the end of the episode. I had three relationships that were over 2 years, but less than 3 years. And for whatever reason, it obviously didn't result in marriage. So for my personal experience, that 2 to 3 year threshold is a good judge of, just this is what I want to do, maybe long term, i.e., for life, right?
Yeah.
And my second point is, in the Five Love Languages book that we referenced before, Gary Chapman, he says that he has his reasons why, but basically, like, if there was a perfect window, like, you shouldn't get married within 2 years, whatever reasons. And there were some statistics backing it, but it's not enough time to develop or to get a well-rounded enough relationship to make the decision to marry before 2 years. So for those two reasons, more so the former reason of my personal experiences, but from what I've experienced, that 2 to 3 years is a good time to be with that person enough to assess. Um,
Yeah. Also, like I think is in the Gary Chapman's Five Languages book, it talked about the honeymoon phase lasting
yeah,
around 2 to 3 years,
yeah,
and then the shorter the time is, that's like I mean, you have heard of stories where people get married in like 6 months,
yep.
but
Well, Love Is
like
Blind, it's like a month.
yeah, you could literally go through 6 months
Yes.
on a honeymoon phase with very minimal conflict or hardship that you talked about in this situation.
Yep.
Because, like, I mean, the b- I don't I don't remember the exact statistic, but when we're talking about the online dating versus
Mm-hmm.
not, like we came through some data that said, if you get married prior to 20 whatever, like here's the
Yeah.
divorce rate.
Yep.
But then one of the things was like if you wait to marry after you're like 25 or something like that, and I know that's not a direct correlation to how long you're dating, But then soon as you marry after 25, your divorce rate goes like down by a dramatic amount. And you you literally could change an opinion of someone after your honeymoon phase is over. Because
Yes.
after that time, like the only thing holding you together is like your willingness to work on their relationship
Yes.
and be with that person.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I got married at the exact 2-year point. So I mean, I guess I didn't necessarily like I'm not a living example of this, but
Mhm.
like I could definitely see advantage of waiting. Like literally, I would say like a 3 years, like plus or minus one. Like that's probably maybe longer than some girls might want or some guys might want. But
Yeah.
I think from like a data standpoint,
Mhm.
statistically speaking, I could see a lot of data backing that up.
Right. Well said. Well said. And I'll caveat everything we just said on this last note with it's circumstantial, right? So someone could have been in a 6-month relationship and go through so much with someone. They
Yeah,
could go
yeah.
through some ups, some downs. Both people could experience deaths in the family. They can get an argument, bounce back. They could live together. They could not. Whereas people could be together 3 years and they could nobody really go anything. They had steady jobs the whole time. Like, so it definitely is circumstantial. Um, for instance, my last couple relationships were long distance. So although I was with that
Mm,
person in a relationship with that person for a long period of time, I didn't get to actually see them or interact with them as much as someone would in a 2-year relationship, right? Whereas somebody could be in a 2-year relationship, if you live up the street from your partner or if you're under the same roof, you're gonna get a lot more experience with that person, um, than the long distance. So although, and what we're saying is data could back time could be significant as a predictor of success in a relationship. I think experience is like a stronger indicator, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like time and experience would be ideal, but I think experience is more. I'd
yeah.
rather have 1 year with someone where I experience a lot rather than 2 years with someone and like we don't have as many experiences because I get
Yeah.
to learn the person more through experiences.
It's just hard because time is objective. You can
Mhm.
say, I
Mhm.
dated this person
Yes.
this many months, this many
Yep.
years, this many days,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
But it's hard to say, oh,
I
I've
had
been this much
have
experience.
this
I
much
had
XP
87
points,
of
experience
experience
point. Yeah.
points with
Yeah.
her that, over a six
Exactly.
months. Yeah. So that's hard. But yeah. And then it's hard. I mean, like, it's easy for us to talk about this, say, okay, yeah, hey, experiences, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, when you're in it, like, it's hard to kind of self reflect
Mhm.
and say, have I gone through a lot with her
Yeah.
or with him? Or, it's hard to kind of gauge that. Um, I mean, you can't really, it's hard to compare, right?
I agree. But to some extent, if
Yeah, I know you do.
like, oh,
You do.
me
You
and
have a
so and
gut
so been through a
feeling.
lot together, like, yeah, and that's like how do you indicate when the honeymoon phase is over? You don't. It's
You
just
can't, yeah,
the honeymoon phase is
it's a feeling.
literally a period of time of like early happiness. Like when does one define when the general happiness is over? Like you try to be happy forever, right? Like that's the goal. So like in a perfect world, wouldn't you want to remain in the honeymoon phase? Like it's
I think, I think honeymoon phase is over like, when you're conscious about working on the relationship or the desire to work on the relationship.
like the desire to work on the relationship kicks in. Like you're like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Because you can just, with just the strength of love, you can just get through a couple years.
Yes. I
And
okay.
then, but then after it, like, really understanding, okay, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, working on the relation, like, not like, if you're fighting, like, trying to work out the fight rather than just getting in a yelling match and just leaving. I
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
I don't know what other examples of like trying to work on a relationship is like. Maybe you start picking up hobbies together. Like I could see that's like working on a relationship.
Or just like compromise, you start sacrificing some certain stuff,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. I just had a fresh thought that popped in my head that I haven't not thought of this far. So we're talking about it'd be ideal to, experience people and spend time with people. What about people that, like, let's say you knew somebody for years, you never dated, but you know them. Like maybe you grew up with them or you've been in the same job with them. So
Mhm.
you have experienced them. You know some of their quirks, you know some of their habits, you spent time with them, you know their personality, and you just start dating. You've been dating for a month. Like something happened over time. You guys never dated, but you somehow developed uh a stronger liking for the person. Now you're in a romantic situation. You've been dating for a month, but you're like, nope, like I'm trying to pull the trigger. I want to get married. Y- You have the experience, like not romantic experience, but you've experienced that person for a while. You've had time with them.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean? Like that's
you
an
have the
interesting.
missing piece of romantic experience, like you said.
Mhm.
I mean, like it's it's good to know that like as a friend, you're already compatible. That's like one
Right.
piece of the puzzle.
Arguably a
But then
big
there's
piece.
like a whole nother thing you're gonna experience
Yeah.
whether you're dating or not dating with that person.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's just something mention. I thought I was like, because you know, most people if they got married, let's say after 3 months, you'd be like, I don't care what you say internally, whether you say it or not, you can be like, it's kind of like, I don't know, that's a little quick. But what if these people knew each other for years and then they just start dating and after 3 months of dating, if they got married, like you still probably be like red flags going off in your head, but it'd be a
Yeah.
little more like, okay, it just from a third party perspective, you'd be a little more, I guess, understanding. But I don't know, it's just a random thought I had. I guess the next things I say on this topic are going to be all outside of religion, because I get if it is embedded within your religion, and you're a devout um follower of whatever your religion is that says, hey, you should abstain from sex prior to marriage, whatever. I got it. So aside from that, I think you should, for many of the reasons we already stated. I see benefits in having intercourse prior to marriage. And let's back up actually one step. What do you think is why do you think most people have sex? I think you're gonna say
Pleasure.
one of two things. Yeah, okay. I would agree. Um actually, I'll leave it. Yes, I would agree. I think pleasure as well. So operating under that assumption, if you have sex for pleasure, whether you're pleasing yourself or you love your partner, like you want to please them, so pleasure. Why would you not want to know if you can receive or give pleasure prior to committing the rest of your life with this person? Again, other than religion, I don't think I can be swayed on that. Like I don't um
I'm trying to think of like a counter argument to that. I
I
don't know.
you know what I mean? Um and the petty example is that I've heard so many times, like people trying to be funny. It's like what, like, yo, you want to test drive a car before you buy it, like you want to like test it out. That's which I think is a funny example. And I mean, probably people buy plenty of cars without test driving them, but I get the sentiment that it tries to highlight in that conversation.
Yeah,
But
because
like,
like I think majority of people would agree that sexual compatibility is part of the relationship.
yes,
Like you can't just ignore that, right?
right.
I think you can ignore it and overcome it
Mm,
with like, hey, if you get married, regardless of sex is good or bad, like you're gonna overcome it because like
right.
your marriage is
Y-
bigger than that.
Yes.
I get that. But if you have the option to do it prior, like
Exactly.
it
You're
just
right.
I don't really see the
Why would you not want to test?
downs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, I don't know.
And this is not saying it has to be often. And I get like some people aren't like sexual in nature. Like they're not sex isn't appealing to them, so they don't
Yeah,
need it. And okay, understand that too. But again, I think for the majority, again, it just you don't have to have sex at a high frequency, but even still, I think you would want it to be enjoyable, right? I feel like that's a fair statement. Like
mhm.
most people, when you do have it, no matter the frequency, like you want it to be enjoyable. And like we said, I think the reason most people have sex is pleasure. Now, I could see not a counter argument, but people being like, well, like the purpose of sex is maybe to procreate. Yes, I would also agree with
It's
that.
more
But
the
I
religion scene.
but I think that's a different statement. You know what I mean? Like most people don't have sex to make babies. Like at some point, but like you're having sex a lot before you get to that point of actually
Yeah.
trying to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was just gonna say, because I know I get how that should be mentioned like in this conversation, that yes, that's maybe the goal of having sex, but I don't think that's the reason most people have sex.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
The
the
goal is
reason.
to. Oh man, what
'Cause
it was intended for was creation,
right.
but then the use case of it in this
Yes.
as like a advanced
Right.
species of Homo sapiens, it's usually for pleasure. It's just what
It
it
just
is.
it is. That's a
Yeah.
reality, right? It's reality. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, okay, combining this with the experience piece, um, because I'll also, I mean, this is getting pretty like vulnerable, but uh, I would also want want someone that is, I mean, at least like had some sex before. And again, I'm in a happy relationship, so like I don't really have to worry about that. But again, it just goes to the experience piece, like that's experienced something, or that is compatible with me on the an experience level. So and that can vary per person, but it just all goes down to, I think that's something you'd want to explore and talk about before taking that next step.
Yeah.
And what I'm building this up to is there is there a point where someone can be too experienced,
Oh,
i.e.
dude.
in
Hell
just
yeah.
dating, or but you know how they say everybody has a past, right? Like everybody's on some, so like should you judge somebody whether they've had zero partners, a handful slash a
Yeah.
respectable amount of
Absolutely.
partners, or if they've had insert ungodly number of partners?
Yes, absolutely. You should
Yeah.
judge.
What if they're completely healthy? Like you
No, just a
verify they
type
don't
of like
have.
I'm just not
Okay.
gonna be attracted towards that
Mm.
type. If you kill someone in your past, are you gonna judge them for it? Like, yes, absolutely. I mean, you can you can be the
Yeah.
almighty say, well, only God can judge me. No, like you're gonna get judged for your action. That's called reality, right? Like,
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't know if it was my girl, or I was having that conversation with somebody recently about how it's a, I guess, a sliding scale. Like some things can be forgiven and overlooked, and there's just simply some things can't. Like you said, like some things just can't be, like it is what it is, and you're probably gonna be judged for it. Um. So okay, yeah. I gotta play devil's advocate and ask.
yeah, I mean, like people are just living a dream. It's like, oh, don't judge them for their past. Like that's literally if I met a serial killer, documented serial killer, I'm gonna judge them. I'm gonna stay the hell away from them,
Facts.
right? Like that just makes sense.
Facts.
And I just, yeah, I mean, I just don't want a person who's like, oh, I slept with, dude. I saw like
Yeah,
there was like a
some
news
crazy.
article. It was like this one like OnlyFans person slept with like 1,000 people in 24-hour period or something like that. Like,
Physically, I don't know how that's possible. Like, I don't know how the human body can withstand. That's insane.
yeah, thousand guys in 24 hours. So
Bro,
you're
that shit's
saying like,
even
oh, don't
walking up
judge
to
them
that.
for it. Like
Yeah.
it's just that's I'm
Yeah,
not
bro.
I'm not I'm not that perfect
Yeah.
of a human to let that go. And I think that's just like
That's
majority
real.
of the population.
No, that's real. Yeah. So I'll go back to just, I mean, saying plainly, I'll say I am an advocate for premarital sex. Again, with the caveat of understanding if that goes against your religion. And again, there's plenty of, I mean, I feel like there's plenty of things that should happen before marriage that we didn't discuss, but I mean, most of them are widely agreed upon and kind of obvious, which is no fun. So it's only right that we rebel against, the should you have sex before marriage, should you live with your partner before marriage, or even should you experience hardships. I think we had some good conversation. Yeah,
Yeah. And the money, which is I
money,
think it's probably a big
the
thing.
dating, yeah, we got some good stuff. Okay, all right, man. That's all I had on the. You got anything else, B?
No, just two dudes talking about
Yeah.
pre-marriage stuff.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thank y'all for all tuning in. We'll have a next week, another topic next week. Stay tuned for that. And we appreciate it as always.